The FBI has released the first of what are expected to be several documents into whether the Saudi government supported the 9/11 hijackers plot. At the same time, the President Biden is defending his Afghanistan withdrawal. CBS's Christina Raffini is at the White House tonight with more.
Good evening, Jerika. Late last night, the FBI released a newly declassified document from 2016. The report shows a closer than previously known link between two Saudi citizens living in the U.S. and the 9/11 hijackers, including meetings and phone calls. But the report does not prove a definitive link between the hijackers and higher echelons of the Saudi government.
Can Al-Qaeda come back? Yeah, but guess what? It's already back other places. What's the strategy? Every place where Al-Qaeda is, we're going to invade and have troops stay there? Come on.
Speaking to reporters in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, the crash site of one of the planes hijacked on 9/11, President Biden defended the U.S. withdrawal from the place that once harbored the terrorists.
70% of American people think it was time to get out, but the flip of it is they didn't like the way we got out.
With the failure of America's nation-building effort in Afghanistan now self-evident, a CBS News poll finds the majority of Americans oppose using the U.S. military to create democracies and want the U.S. to intervene less overseas. But former acting CIA Director Michael Morrell says not having a presence in Afghanistan puts America at greater risk.
You have safe haven in Afghanistan that you really can't have anywhere else because you're being harbored now by the Taliban. And Afghanistan's a big place. It's tough to get to. It's tough to find partners.
And tomorrow, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken will appear on the Hill for the first time since the U.S. left Afghanistan to field what will surely be some pointed questions from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle.
An article dated March 14, 2022, Dan Christensen of the Florida Bulldog, headliner, many more declassified FBI documents on 9/11 to be made public soon, as case takes yet another turn to Florida. The Justice Department has notified a federal judge in New York that within days it expects to release another 1,000 pages of declassified FBI documents about Operation Encore, the FBI's sub-rosa investigation of possible Saudi government complicity in 9/11. The release of those records will be in response to President Biden's September executive order mandating a sweeping declassification review of certain documents concerning the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. To date, more than 700 FBI documents have been released, totaling more than 2,700 pages. Biden's order effectively overturned a 2020 decision by Trump administration Attorney General William Barr to invoke the rarely used state secrets privilege to keep records about Operation Encore hidden from the public. Thursday's notification letter to U.S. Magistrate Judge Sarah Netburn from the New York U.S. Attorney, who is overseeing the government's participation in the extensive civil lawsuit brought against Saudi Arabia by 9/11 victims, also states it is anticipated that there may be further releases of information into mid-April due to continuing coordination with a number of foreign governments and ongoing interagency review. In addition, because records produced publicly will contain redactions required by the Privacy Act, the FBI will create separate sets of documents that remove those redactions for use by lawyers for the 9/11 families and victims. Expected to be included in the coming releases are passages containing analysis of telephone, banking, financial, credit, and communication records obtained via a grand jury subpoena. Earlier this month, Netburn granted a government request to make public those grand jury materials. The grand jury in New York was part of the Encore investigation that focused on what agents believed was a support network for two 9/11 hijackers, Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar. Hazmi and Mihdhar were part of a 5-member al-Qaeda team that on September 11, 2001, hijacked American Airlines Flight 77 at the Leaving Dulles International Airport and crashed it into the Pentagon, killing 59 passengers and crew and another 125 people in the building. The classified Operation Encore documents previously released included significant new information about a trio of Saudi Ministry of Islamic Affairs officials operating inside the United States who are suspected of aiding al-Hazmi and al-Midar. One of those figures was Mutwib al-Sudairi. 2010 FBI document says that in Columbus, Missouri, Sudairi lived with Ziad Khalil for about 4 months in 2000. Khalil was a known key communications equipment procurer officer for Osama bin Laden and provided satellite phones used in the 1998 U.S. Embassy bombings in Africa. 2016 FBI report says Khalil likewise managed wire transfers from the Islamic American Relief Agency to bank accounts controlled by bin Laden. It also noted that Sudairi's phone number was found in the address book of suspected Saudi intelligence agent Omar al-Bayoumi after 9/11. Al-Bayoumi was one of a trio of Saudis at the center of the Encore investigation for providing critical assistance to al-Hazmi and al-Midar shortly after their arrival in the U.S. in January 2000. The appearance of Khalil in the FBI's narrative brings the 9/11 case once again to Florida. The reason? Another of his former roommates, Munir K. Arafat, was an imam from 2000 to 2003 at a Sarasota area mosque run by the Islamic Society of Sarasota. He also later served as imam at the Boca Raton Islamic Center. Arafat gained notoriety in June of 2005 when he testified as a government witness at a high-profile terrorism trial of University of South Florida professor Sami al-Arian. Arafat, who admittedly being paid $35,000 by the United States, claimed al-Arian tried to recruit him in the 1988 into joining the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. According to a December 8, 2003 Florida Department of Law Enforcement report obtained by Florida Bulldog, a source said that Arafat was a member of the Islamic Brotherhood who follows a radical belief and wishes harm to the United States. That same year, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch reported that Arafat testified about his involvement with Khalil, who also went by the name Ziad Sadaka, before a federal grand jury in December of 2002. Arafat, a Kuwaiti of Palestinian descent, was transported from Sarasota to St. Louis to testify following his November 2002 arrest for overstaying his visa, the paper said. Khalil Sadaka died in a car accident in Saudi Arabia in 2002. In an interview with the Post-Dispatch, Arafat said that he and Khalil raised $30,000 in 2000 for the Holy Land Relief Foundation. In 2001, the United States designated the Holy Land Group a terrorist organization and claimed that its leaders were members of Hamas, the militant Islamic group in Israel. The foundation is now defunct. Arafat's name and phone numbers were also found in the cell phone address book of Wassim Hammoud, following Hammoud's January 2004 arrest in Sarasota for weapons violations and attempting to kill a federal agent and witness. Hammoud pleaded guilty a year later and was sentenced to 21 years in prison. The U.S. Bureau of Prisons, which has classified Hammoud as an international terrorist associate, lists Hammoud as due for early release in September of this year. Sarasota private detective Bill Warner has tracked Arafat for years, ever since Warner's involvement with U.S. Immigration and Customs agents and the Sarasota Police Department as a confidential informant in a terrorism investigation that began in June of 2002. My involvement consisted of supplying surveillance photos, background checks, and cell phone records, Warner said. I obtained the cell phone records of at least 24 individuals and phone numbers of who they called linked to the Islamic Society of Sarasota and Bradenton. Various used car lot owners in Tampa and Sarasota, and Imam Munir Arafat. Imam Munir Arafat, in my opinion, and from my experience, was a double agent. He worked for the FBI as a paid confidential informant from 2002 to 2003, wearing a wire in support of terrorism investigation in Sarasota, and was part of the advance team in early 2000 for 9/11 hijacker pilots Mohammed Atta, Marwan al-Shehi, and Ziad Jarrah, also in Sarasota County. Arafat is believed to have been deported in 2007, and he is currently living in Amman, Jordan. They trained at nearby Venice Municipal Airport, where Atta and al-Shehi were at the controls of the 2 passenger jets that struck the World Trade Center. Jarrah led the al-Qaeda team that took over, allegedly, United Airlines Flight 93, which crashed into a Pennsylvania field. According to a 15-page FDLE report from 2004 of April, Hamoud also told authorities that while Arafat was the spiritual leader of the Islamic Society of Sarasota, he played soccer on its property with Abdul Aziz Al-Hijj. Al-Hijj brought with him a friend to the soccer games. Hamoud advised that his friend was Adnan El-Shuknajuna, the report said. Shuknajuna, a former Miramed resident, later became a suspected al-Qaeda leader. The United States had a $5 million bounty on his head until he was killed by Pakistani troops in December 2014. Florida Bulldog, working with Irish author Anthony Summers in 2011, reported that Mohammed Atta and other 9/11 figures spent time at the Sarasota area home of Abdul Aziz and Anud Al-Hijj, a Saudi couple with ties to the royal family, who 2 weeks before the terrorist attacks of New York and Washington abruptly quit their home, leaving behind cars, clothes, jewelry, and food in the refrigerator. FBI records later obtained by Florida Bulldog during the Freedom of Information Act litigation state that agents found many connections between the Sarasota Saudis and individuals associated with the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. The second Freedom of Information Act lawsuit filed by the Bulldog against the FBI in 2016 uncovered the existence of Operation Encore, which later became both a central focus of the New York lawsuit against Saudi Arabia and President Biden's September executive order.